Okay, so as people file in, I'll help you get a better feel for our audience. But as it stands right now, our audience is basically primarily newer agents. These are agents that have been in the business, let's say 8 or 9 months or less for the most part, and agents that are, kind of dealing with the typical stuff that a new agent deals with, right? It's like, what's most important? I've got 10,000 things I could do today. What am I supposed to do? Navigating their calendar challenges, navigating um, their standards, their presentations, um, their scripts, knowing what classes to attend, and where to spend their money, and all these kind of things. So not unlike any of the challenges that you faced as you were growing your business. So I felt you would be a great resource for our people today, so that they can hear a story of success, and actually, quite frankly, quick success. Um, Let me take a moment to introduce everyone to Heather. So Heather and I met roughly right around a year ago, I think.
Mhm.
And you were highly recommended from one of our other top agents. And at the time, you were at the Alpharetta office, and I was TL, and you made the move over to Roswell. And I'm sure this will be part of your story, so I won't go into all the details, but um, I think it's fair to say that your business was not where you wanted it to be.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, as you would expect, as a result, your quality of life was not where you expected it to be. And it trickles down into a lot of different things, from your relationships with your family and your children, and travel and financial goals and all kinds of stuff. And I hopefully you'll give me this much credit for your success, but um, I've watched you over the course of the last year, and it's been really awesome to watch you. You were in the productivity coaching program for maybe 3 or 4 months at the very beginning. And I always thought of you as a kind of a mentor in the group, and somebody who was not afraid of hard work, and ultimately have really taken advantage of the opportunities out there. And so, without further ado, I'd love to introduce you guys to Heather Hare. She's going to be on our 2021 ALC, which just had its first meeting the other day. This was a goal of hers, and she has accomplished many of the goals that we set together roughly a year ago.
And
And
I
so,
had that list. I wish I had that list so we could go through it of the goals that I wanted to accomplish when I joined here.
I could probably dig for it and find it. I don't know if you guys, whoever was in bold last year, did you just get your letter, Heather?
I didn't check my mailbox, so maybe.
I got it like 3 or 4 days ago.
Okay. Yeah.
And I accomplished almost everything on that list. It's quite interesting how crazy that is when you put your mind to something and you're thinking about it constantly, what kind of results you get. So y'all aren't here to hear me, you're here to hear Heather. So Heather, I'd like to start. Can you kind of give us just a little bit of background on how you ended up in real estate and how you ended up at Roswell?
Yes. So I am born and raised in New York. I moved to Atlanta in 2016, and I didn't know anyone but the person I moved here for. So I brought my 3 children with me, and there was just one man in my life, and that's the only person I knew. In New York, I worked my whole life in title insurance, which, if you have any transactions, they're really pivotal in in moving the process. So as I worked in title insurance, I started in high school filing, moved up to closings, handling the closing desk, a reader, a typist, and eventually I didn't want to sit in an office for so long, so I became a title closer. Fast forward, I moved here and I started all over in title industry and real estate. And then I realized really quickly that, there's not a third party closer. I will always be trapped in an office, and I absolutely hated it. So from there, I stayed home for 2 years, acclimated my children to the move, acclimated my spouse's children to the new family. And then I was really bored with staying home because our kids are bigger. So I said, you know what? I have the opportunity now to pursue a career in real estate that I always wanted to do. And I mean, it was insane. I didn't know anybody here, literally. Even though I was here for 2 years, I didn't work. So I didn't have any friends. But I still did it, took my class, passed my exam on the first time, which I'm still impressed by myself. And then I ended up over at North Atlanta. And that office is really, really big. And I just felt like there wasn't enough attention for the small fish in the pond, like myself. I think I had 7, maybe 9 transactions my first year. I don't know, between those two numbers, I don't even know. But it was exciting. I was like, woohoo, but I was making money so sporadically and it was so minimal because I didn't cap. And, you feel like you're starting out and you're just paying all these dues and you're paying all these splits and you're frustrated. And I went to Bold and I met Carrie Veal from our office. She was my team captain. And Carrie was like, and I said to her, look, I'm just thinking about leaving Keller Williams. Like, I don't think this is the place for me. And she said, oh no. And if you have ever talked to Carrie Veal, she like lives and breathes Keller Williams. And she was like, no. You need to come to Roswell. You need to meet with Bill. You need to see our office. We're a lot smaller. We've got like a real family feel. And I was like, all right, I guess. And I did. I met with Bill in February of this year. I joined. So it was right before a pandemic hit. And I was pretty honest. And I was like, look, I don't even know if I want to come here either, but I love it here now. And I believe in Keller Williams more than ever.
That's awesome. So walk us through your year. When we sat down, what specifically do you remember speaking to me about? What did you share with me with regards to kind of what changes you want to make in your business and your goal of 22 and all that stuff? Can you go through that a little bit?
I think one of the things I said to you is I want to be a big dog.
Yeah.
I think I pretty much did say that. I don't want to be a small minnow in a big, lake. I want to be like a top dog. And I remember saying that I did want to be on the ALC. I remember telling you that I didn't get a lot of support from my partner because he is the breadwinner. He's got like an executive level job. He travels a lot. He just makes a lot of money. And, for all intents and purposes, prior to me really launching a business, I was in charge of the house and the kids. And so when I was getting serious about doing this, he was like, all right, well, have fun, pretty much that was it. And, he supported me, but he would like be texting and like listening with half an ear. And it wasn't really like the support that I wanted. And so I remember saying to Bill, like, I want to make, if not more money than him, equal to him, because I want to get his attention. And so I have 2 closings this month and I will make exactly what he makes before bonus this year. And my year doesn't end until February.
And how has that dynamic changed this so far this year?
You know what? He cooks dinner a lot more. He does laundry a lot more. He supports me a lot more. Our son just had, so we are combined families, but we say our children because my bonus children's mom passed away and my children, their father lives in New York. So they are our children.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
I don't know. I know you keep kosher. So wine is the best.
Thank you so much. I just got my first Hanukkah cookie. All right, sorry about that. Keep going.
Okay, so I say our children. So our son just had surgery on Tuesday, and it's the second surgery in 30 days. He's completely fine, but they needed to go back in and clear some stuff out. And he had a crazy schedule, and he had this. So Wednesday I had an ALC meeting, and it was our first meeting. And I said to him, look, my mom can come here and help us, which she's been here a lot. So neither one of us exactly want her here again, or you can help me help him. And so on Tuesday, he has this like once a month, all day meeting. The executive team does, and he actually stayed home and did that via Zoom. And I was able to come here and participate in that. So the dynamic has changed. He now realizes that my job is equally as important as his. And I mean, it's just been amazing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, gosh, I mean, that just deserves, recognition and applause right there. I mean, there's so many things that had to happen between that day and today for that to be accomplished. And I think I remember I didn't know you that well when I probably said this to you, and I said something like, whenever I'm doing something stupid, my wife will be like, "Do you like living here?"
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna need you to do all the dishes after dinner every night.
Yeah.
And if I complain, she's like, "You do like living here, right? Right? You like being my roommate? Okay, that's the way it's gonna be." And I said to you, I said, "You tell Joe that you mean business. Like it,
Yeah.
you are taking this seriously, and you will put up 22 units, and you will make great money, and you will have a great quality life. And he can either get on board or not get on board. Now, what's it gonna be?"
And I did have that conversation. And it was so scary, but I did, because, I came from a place where I had years of like 6 figures and then not 6 figures. And, because when you're a title closer, you're an independent contractor. And so I had a salary that was a base. And then how much could I, as a single mother who doesn't get financial, physical, moral support, help from her ex-husband, how much could I have contributed to life and work and still raise my children to be good people? So when I came here and I had this really great man, I was like, man, I don't ever want to lose this guy. But then I realized you got to take a step back and you're like, well, wait a minute. He didn't want to lose me either.
That's right.
You shouldn't be afraid to step up and have that conversation with your spouse if they're not supporting. But you have to have that conversation with the full acknowledgement that you are going to be valuable, not just in the house, but outside of the house, and that you're going to go out there and do the work and make it. Something I've thought about talking to you guys today. So I'll touch really quick. I don't know if you're reading this book with your people, but
I've read that. It's amazing.
Fabulous. So I just started it. So I was reading that book this morning, and I was thinking about what I wanted to talk to you guys about. And something I thought about is, success is optional.
Yes.
We can choose to succeed or we can choose to fail. And every single day we do things. So, my move here was so different from my life there. But every single day while I lived in New York, I always believed in something better and bigger, and I always worked towards it. Did that change so much from February to now? No. I believed in something bigger and I always worked towards it.
Right. I love that line. Success is optional.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I've joked, and somebody would say, well, I don't want to make any cold calls. Do I have to make cold calls? Say, no, you don't actually have to do anything, as a matter of fact.
Right.
This is a very easy, low paying job. Right?
there is a secret to success. It's just in the work. If you do it,
that's right. If your plan is generating enough business and appointments without cold calling, then you don't need to cold call.
Mm-hmm.
But if your plan is not generating enough appointments, something's got to change.
Right.
Now, whether it's introducing cold calls to the mix or not, that's up to you. But if your plan ain't working, we got to have a different plan.
Absolutely.
I talk to us a little bit about how your business developed. When you said to yourself, gosh, I've like given my husband like this strong, confident statement, and I have switched offices, and I've got kind of things are what's the word I want to use? Kind of unsettled to some degree,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, what did you do first? Like, what was your mindset around building the business, or, rebuilding the business, and then putting yourself in a position where you could build the systems necessary to have the type of success you've had? Walk us through the very beginning part of that.
I think at first I wanted to vomit after I said those words.
Right.
But then you have to move really quick and get into action. So when I was in North Atlanta, I had a PC coach. So it was a no-brainer that when I came here, I was going to get a PC coach. And when I joined, they didn't have PC coach yet. Bill was the team lead. And that's something Bill said to me, like, hey, we don't have PC yet, but we're working on it. And obviously I was not in the mix of like what was, all the changes. So another thing, so I made little notes. I made little notes on my phone to share with you guys. So the other thing is, and you just touched on it, you said, what were the systems? your goals are achieved by implementing systems. So the first system was, okay, I need to get into PC, because my previous PC coach, who's wonderful, but at a different location, he really helped me. And so when Bill said, okay, give us a couple of weeks, we're going to get something together, I jumped into PC. You need systems, you need organization. And I know a lot of times as a new agent, there are so many things flying at you. Bill touched on that earlier. I've been through it. We've all been through it. You really have to find out, I would say, even before you have business. I bought this very small, rinky dinky little plastic, looks like a milk crate with a cover. And I bought some file folders. And so super early on, I made a little system of, and I didn't even have business, but I made a little system of like, a file for PC and handouts and notes, and, and then a file for like my buyers and my sellers and my listing, because before you have a listing presentation of your own, you have a Keller Williams one. And so I just made a system of all of that and just organized all of that. Because when you're doing the work, whether it's cold calls, I don't know if I should say this, but I don't love cold calling.
That's okay.
I prefer door knocking, but I don't do it all the time. So where does my business come from as somebody who had no sphere here? Everything is open houses. Absolutely everything. I do 4 to 6 open houses a month. I then get referrals. I get those clients as people, not everybody who comes in the door, but a lot of them. I get those people as clients. I will help them sell or buy. And then from there, I get referrals from them. So my business is based. So recently, a big name exited our Keller Williams office, and he texted me and he said, and he's been trying for a while, and he said, I really just, and I do open houses for him. And he said, I just don't understand why you're still doing open houses. You are top 20% producer, you are ALC, like, why are you doing open houses? And I said to him, because I genuinely like them. And it's just easy. It's an easy interaction for me. I'm much better in front of people than I am on the phone. It's always awkward. It's like, do you want to hang up? Do you not want to hang up? I don't know. But in person, I get to really just kind of be myself. So I love to do open houses. So part of your systems and part of what you'll learn in PC is, it's Bill's duty to open your eyes to every lead source that there is, but it's your duty to then pick what you're good at and then pick 2 sub ones and then do what you're good at all the time. And then, just try to like do what you're sub good at, like in your subcategory. And you might find that you drop one, or you might find that you drop both, or you might find that you succeed in all 3 of them. And now you're just mastering a system.
So is open house your primary one?
Open house and referrals now that I have a sphere of my own. Yeah.
Okay. And talk to us a little bit about your plan for next year. Walk us through, like, 22 is the big number for this year. It sounds like you're going to be right at that, right?
Yeah. So 22, I told Bill when I first met him, my nephew passed away at 22 years old, 7 years ago. So that's my number. I even have a tattoo on my finger of it. That was my number. I just pulled it out of a hat. Like, I went from 7 to 9 deals in my first year to I'm going to close 22. So I'm going to digress just a little bit. When you make a big statement, like I said, was like, to my partner, and I was like, look, you're going to support me or you're not. Either way, like, I'm going to do this. And, wherever we land, we land. It's not that I don't want to be with this man, but I need somebody who's going to support me, right? So you'll do a lot of reading in Keller Williams, and you'll find that you move from pain to pleasure, P2P. I'm sure you guys all know about that. So the idea of, like, for me, a huge stepping stone was I was completely terrified that I had said those words out of my mouth. And it was so scary to me that I had no option to fail. And what happens next? You go to pleasure. So you move from the pain of like, oh my gosh, I just said this, now I have to stand behind it, to the pleasure of I'm going to make 6 figures so that if I did have to back that statement up, I could. Mm-hmm. So I say that because 22 was a lofty number. And I know that for somebody who really she didn't have anything going on. but I chose it because it was my nephew. He was 22 years old. I adore that boy. I am going to be closing 18 this month, not 18 closings, but my 18th one this month. Um, actually two, so 18 and 19 this month. And then my year ends in February and I have a few buyers that I am working with. So I know that if I don't exceed it, I will absolutely reach it. So I don't know. I'm very impulsive and I probably need to sit down and think a little bit more about life. So Bill came over to our luncheon table at the Thanksgiving dinner and he said, or lunch, and he said, what's your goal for next year? Because you're going to smash this one. And I'm like, I don't know, 46. Now, gigantic number. It is, but I am implementing more systems to get me to that number. So without your systems, which you are learning in PC,
yeah,
you're just not going to be able to achieve that stuff.
What would you say the biggest, like, what's the system that, what's like your favorite system, or what's like the system that seems to be the most effective for you right now? What's the one that's been the biggest game changer?
I really, 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 really thrive off of organization. So
Okay.
having a space for everything. In my computer, um, I have folders that, you know, say buyers 2020, buyers 2019, sellers 2020, referrals, rentals, you know, and I drop everything like in those categories. For me, you know, I could look at something that does not seem to be a mess to someone and my brain just cannot function in that. And it could be like the tiniest of disruptants on a table and I just can't do it. So while you're at this phase and you are learning things and you don't have a lot of business and you're not heavy on the business end, put your organization together now, because when that business starts, as long as you're doing everything today, 30, 60, 90 days, you're going to have something coming up and hopefully multiple things. If you're not organized, you're just not going to know how to do any of this. This business moves so fast. It moves so fast all the time. So I would think for me, the biggest issue, the biggest system is organization.
So let's go a little deeper on that. What is that? What does that mean? Outside of having a folder for like 2021 buyers, 2021 sellers, like what, can we go a little bit in more detail? Let's give them at least one action step that, let's give them something to do, an action step or a system or a model that you've used successfully. And let's make sure that they know exactly how to implement it before this call's done.
Okay, I'm going to tell you, this is my calendar and it is quite busy, right? Now, if you've ever seen Bill's calendar, my calendar looks empty. I saw it one day, I almost died. But so writing everything down, right? You put everything in your calendar, you write everything down, you organize it that way. And then I am a huge fan, and I actually did this just this morning on my way here. I buy notebooks from the dollar store like nobody's business. And I have a notebook for everything. So this notebook happens to be pretty much every team meeting that we've gone through in the and you'll see, like, even here I wrote Bill's PC group just because I assume I'm going to pick up nuggets along the way too. I'm forever a student. So if something is said, I want to jot it down too. This is one of my newer books for something that I'm starting on the ALC. So I have notebooks like nobody's business, and they're all labeled. And I have one notebook per whatever it is, because in this book, my goodness, if I said Bill's PC group, where am I going to find that? Maybe on this tab. Nope, not on this tab. So I would just think putting everything in writing, really, really organizing your calendar. When you speak to people, I'm a huge fan of, I have Alexa at home, I have Siri on my phone. And if I say I'm going to call somebody, I'm like, you know, I won't say Siri because she'll do it. So I'll say, hey, Alexa, you know, set a timer for 4 o'clock. I have to call Bill Linkwald, so that I am prompt and I am on time for that call. People are so impressed. So organization like that on a whole, really.
Cool. I just want to remind everyone, this is a workshop to some degree. So if you have some questions for Heather, don't hesitate. You can either shout it out or put it in the chat, and we'll answer those things one by one. What other advice do you have for an agent that is kind of like they were in your shoes a year ago?
The advice that I have is that the results are in the work. So I'll read you something that I wrote while I was driving here. I didn't type it, I seared it. So it says, we all start in this industry with dreams of making big money and having a life that's HGTV worthy. But without systems, how does that unfold? As a new agent, getting into PC is vital to your success. Without it, we can all be running around like chickens without heads. And so I say that because the things that you're going to learn now, you know, your success, you're going to do it. It's all in the work, but you need a starting point. And so a year ago, I didn't really have those tools, but I did spend, you know, 3 or 4 months with Bill. I did have these conversations. I really, really, really miss our morning meetings, like really miss that every single day. I just think that you need to have your systems in place. You need to have a dream, but not just a dream, but a call to action. You need to take that seriously.
So let's dig into an example of one of your systems. So we've been working on, for a lot of new agents, we've been trying to identify what their top 3, I'm glad you kind of alluded to this, your top 3 lead generation sources, right? And then with each of the sources, we, you know, we basically have, those are the 3 priorities, and then the 5 strategies are, you know, the metrics or the deadlines that have to get taken care of in order for that to be, you know, basically part of the plan, right? To create the results you're trying to create. So when I did open houses, I was just kind of creating an example of what those projects would be. Let's talk about your open house plan or your open house system, if you will. So I divided it into a couple of different things. I divided it into what are the metrics, right? How do I know I'm winning at open houses, which was your commitment to do a certain number of open houses a month, right? And then I said, everyone needs to sit and develop their pre-open house strategy, their day of open house, or system, I should say, their day of open house system, and then their follow-up post-open house system. Can you kind of go into a little bit of detail about what you do to prepare for an open house, what you do the day of, and what you do follow-up?
Sure. So I wish somebody had told me this earlier, because it would save me a lot of time on the day of. But I primarily try to obtain an open house no later than Wednesday. That's my cutoff day. If somebody calls me on Friday and is like, oh, can you host an open house tomorrow? Unless it's a brand new open house, I'm not doing it. A brand new open house will generate way more traction than an open house that's sitting there for 2 or 3 weeks. And I know Corey's on this call. I don't know if she's still on the call, but she was.
She is.
She reached out to me and she said, hey, do you have any open houses I could do? And I said, look, I got a really stale one. I don't think you should do it. And I wish that every agent could be that honest, right? Because as new agents, you're so eager, they're just taking it in. So if I don't have anything by Wednesday, I don't do it. And I'm going to tell you why. Sorry. When you are a listing agent and you post an open house, it takes 24 to 48 hours to feed into feeder sites like Zillow, Realtor, so on and so forth. So if I call you on Saturday, you're not really going to get a lot of that public online interest, right? So I suggest that you always try to snag something by Wednesday. I've always jumped onto GLG, and we could do it in our office too, but GLG gives us access to tons of agents. So my second suggestion, and I didn't do it when I was newer in the business, but I definitely do it now, is to pick your area. Where do you want to work? Where do you want to build your business? And then you go into GLG and you go, hey, y'all, Heather Hare, looking for an open house this weekend from Sandy Springs to Johns Creek. Okay? I'll do anything along 400 there. I don't want to go to Cumming because I don't want to spend a lot of time in Cumming, right? It's just not conducive for me. So pick your area that you want to work in. And then don't be afraid to say it. So I do that. And then I always put my email and I put my phone number, because some people are strange and they don't want to just post it on a, Facebook post. So I always do that. So now it's Wednesday. I do that on Mondays, sometimes Sundays if I'm up to it, but definitely on a Monday. So now it's Wednesday. I have my open house. So then for a while I was doing the Facebook marketing. I'm not really a fan of that. That's a lie. I learned how to use command. So now I do it through command. So learn how to do commands, go and post it. You're doing an open house. You're going to, this location from this time, so on and so forth. You get that out as soon as possible because it takes a couple of hours, if not 24 hours to post. You should have a credit card in command and, they'll just bill you for it. So it's easy. If you're really new and you don't have branded signs, that's fine. You can go to the FMLS store. You can buy a couple of directional signs. Don't be afraid to ask other agents. As a person who lists, I have agents ask all the time, hey, do you have any directionals? And I do have branded and non-branded. So, I'll have that for them. So then and you got to be really careful. You'll learn this through all the classes. You don't want to put your signage out, 5 days ahead of time, because there are certain communities, whether it's in a subdivision or even just in the town, they'll just snatch your stuff up. It's really painful when you're branded and your signs are like 20 bucks a pop. So I usually go out there kind of like not the morning of, the afternoon before, in the evening. Now that it's getting darker early, I try to go out in the afternoon. Also, now that I can use Keys Please, I'll probably have those out like by the morning before. So I do that. And then—
Wait, hold on. So are you using Keys Please to get somebody to put the signs out?
Well, because I am a little bit busier, yes.
No, I was getting ready to go in that direction. Did y'all hear that?
Yeah, I didn't know that was an option.
Oh my God.
It's really,
yes.
Shouldn't be limited to, it's really anything you.
It's like a real estate version of Uber.
It's fabulous. And
right. I mean, you remember the other day, guys, when I was talking about having an Uber drop off your pre-listing package? Same kind of concept.
Absolutely.
Hey, you could do whatever you want as long as it's legal.
Yeah, you're literally just putting in there like, hey, this is the tax. So I don't know if you all know, I know because I have great friends in California. Many, many years ago, as a single mom, I was always looking for ways to make money legally. And my friend from California was like, oh, have you ever heard of TaskRabbit? You get paid to do tasks for other people. Well, they didn't have it in New York and they don't have it in Georgia. But Keys Please is essentially a real estate TaskRabbit. And that's it. You post the job and they will come. Like, you're paying for it. So who doesn't, especially when you're a new agent and you're not making a lot of money. And guys, that's the other thing I'm going to tell you. Do not spend money right now. You should be saving as much money as you can. And that's why I loved open houses and I still love them. I'm not spending a lot of money to do this. I go to the dollar store, I buy these cute little plates that like look like fall leaves or pumpkins or stockings. And I just changed. The dollar store is like my best friend. I buy like little baggies of dollar candy, that like seem, Russell Stover's or something. It seemed like I put a lot of thought into it. And then, I have my sign-in sheet. I barely bombard people once the day of. So I used to go every day, like of my closing, and of my open house, and buy balloons. I don't buy balloons. Nobody cares. I just don't bother. However, Bill tells you to do it, but people don't care. So I don't get balloons. I used to go and buy like these little waters and then go to Kroger and buy these fabulous cookies. Nobody eats the cookies. Nobody grabs the waters. I found that LaCroix works really well. These little individually wrapped candies and mints, chocolates and mints, especially in COVID times where people don't want to take one cookie from 50. And so I do that. When I get my sign-in sheet ready, another thing I do is on MLS, I print out a buyer full sheet of whatever home I host, and I print out multiple ones of them. And I wish I had one, but hold on one second. So I'm taking buyers out today, so I'll show you.
Heather.
Yes.
Here,
Yeah, you got it, Corey.
That's my girl. So yes, so we have this sheet, and I take this sheet, and I always do a buyer full, and I staple my business card here. And when people come in,
yeah, you want to see the first picture, you got to move my business card.
Yeah, it's going to be my business card. I cover this. They want to see the price. They do, right? I mean, look, what the house looks like outside. You just walked in the door. So it's going to be my business card. And they want to see the price. And so I don't want to bombard anybody. So what I say is I don't ask for them to sign in. I just don't bother. I mean, I do eventually, but not when they first walk in. So they come in and they're like, hi. And I'm like, hi, and it could always be this awkward moment. So I'm like, hey, what brings you in today? And you can ask that question and sometimes laugh at yourself. Sometimes I do. Obviously, they're looking at a home, but are they always going to buy it? Are they a neighbor? Are they someone who's interested in selling but live in the school district? You just don't know. And so then I ask them, what do you know? What do you know about the home? And they'll say, well, we just saw it on Zillow. And I'm like, bam, I gotcha. So I give them one of this. I usually print about 10, and sometimes I run out. Most of the time I don't. And then when I don't run out, I just leave them at the house. So I print this out and I give them like a brief, I'm standing over, I'm like, this is the area that tells you about square footage. This tells you how many rooms are in the house. Down here tells you about the taxes. Feel free to look around the house and circle back with me. And when you do, just before you leave, I need you to sign in for me. But more importantly, I'd love to hear your feedback of the house. Caveat, Corey hosted an open house with me. I didn't even remember that the basement door led to the yard, and they leave. Check your house out. And it was my own listing. So, it happens to all of us. We get bird brainy. Check your listing out. If the back door leads to an ungated backyard, have them sign in before they look around. So there's that, but that's what that looks like. So then, like I said, if I don't give all of these away, I keep them at the house, whether it's my listing or not. If a listing agent shows up and, she wants to clear it out and throws it out, that's on her. But if not, somebody might just want it. Want my card or whatever, or want the printout, whatever the case may be. And so then that's Sunday. Usually I'll do them Sundays. I find Sundays are the better day to do open houses. I'm not going to say not to do them on Saturdays, but I find Sundays are really good days. Another thing I found is on a rainy Sunday, they come in groves because they're bored. They don't know what to do. They just want to get out of the house. So I've had success with rainy Sundays. And then Monday, if you've ever hosted an open house, it's exhausting and you've given like 210% of yourself, hopefully. So I don't jump into like following up with them as soon as Monday arrives. But by Monday night, I am starting to craft an email to them, and I'll see if I can like read you one here. So here's a perfect example. Whoops, open the wrong thing. So here's a perfect example. This guy came into an open house that I hosted in the spring. I'm going to read it to him. When I first started real estate, I was like so incredibly annoying. It was unbelievable because I was like following up, they're like, oh, it's all in the follow-up. My goodness. I was following up so much that these people probably wanted to call the police on me.
I have the same story. Like my first open house, there's like 3 or 4 people that came, and I came back to the office Monday, and I was taught to follow up. So I called them all Monday. What do you need? What can I do for you? Ready to buy something? And nobody answered the phone. So I was like, I guess I'll call them again. I called them Tuesday, and they're like, oh, we're waiting a little while. I said, okay. So I was like, all right, I'll give you a day. So I call them back on Thursday. I'm like, you ready? They're like, no, we said we were waiting a little while. I said, it's been 2 days.
Yeah.
Right?
What do you need? Yeah.
What are you waiting for? And eventually somebody came up to me, an old coworker, and just like, I think you need more people to talk to.
Yeah. And that's the truth. So Bill, part of PC, he will give you, I don't know what it's called, but it's like, you have certain days of the week where you call certain letters in the alphabet. Yeah. Utilize that. But if you only have 4 people and you only have 3 N's and 1 D, do not call those people every week. Just don't do it. They're going to be really pissed.
They're like, you need to grow your database, young man.
100%.
Oh, okay.
So, 100%. So, okay, this is a bad example, but I'm gonna give it to you, and you do better than I did. And I don't know if this is my first email to him, but I don't know. But anyway, I sent this email out on August 17th, and I said, good morning, Larry. I hope you, so here's the thing, guys. On their sign-in sheet, you're going to make notes because you're going to talk to them. And I'm really good at like finding a point of interest with someone and then running with that. So, John just did, he just did a showing for me. We're both from New York. We probably talked about being from New York 20 minutes longer than we talked about what I actually needed him to do for me that day, right? So you find that point of interest and then you run with it, right? So, and another thing is they come in with their spouse and they come in with their kids, whether you ask them what the spouse's name is or the kid's name, you listen and you'll hear that kid's name. And one time I took my kids to Central Park. My son Zachary was all over this freaking rock. I was like, Zach. Eventually this guy goes, hey, Zach, I'll give you $5. Take a picture of me and my girlfriend. So I made him $5, right? Because I just kept screaming the kid's name. So what'd you say?
I said, that's interesting that, I mean, he listened.
Yeah. The guy listened, right? So you just listen to what's going on in the room and you make these notes on the back of their sheet. Or if they haven't done a sign-in sheet, you make these notes in one of your handy dandy notebooks so that when they sign in, you compare those notes to that person. So here I said, good morning, Larry. I hope you and Courtney are doing well. We met at an open house last month in Alpharetta. I probably should have cited the address, but I didn't. And also, I can't remember if this was my first email to him and why did I wait a month if it was. I'm reaching out to say hello and see if there's anything I can assist you with. Please know that no matter how big or small the question is, I'm here to help. Have a wonderful day. I emailed him, I'm going to tell you how many times I've emailed him since. He emailed me. Okay, so this was not my first email. So that was sent on August 17th. He emailed me for the very first time since I met him in that open house on August 25th. I responded on August 26th. So I waited a little bit. Then I hadn't heard from him. I emailed him again September 21st. He emailed me. I emailed him again November 18th. He emailed me November 22nd. Now, since November 22nd, guess who has written up a new client? Me.
So there's also some time in between
Absolutely.
You sending the message and them replying.
Absolutely.
So we've talked about that a good bit in here too, which is like, oh, I called them, but they didn't call me back. Should I, delete them out of the database? Like, no. They're not going to call you every time they're not going to respond to your message every time you send a message. And you just have to get comfortable with that.
Can I just interject? For me, one of my earlier open houses, I got the person's information and the phone, and I kept leaving messages at the phone number, not getting any call back. So finally, about 3 weeks ago, I sent a card, handwritten card saying, hey, I'm very sorry that we haven't connected, but I'm here to help, enclose my business card. And he contacted me yesterday. He saw a property on Zillow and he contacted me, and I'm going to have an appointment with them on Saturday. So yeah, it's always worth following up in some way, shape, or form.
It goes back to what we talked about this morning, which was a recap of what we talked about from what Gene Rivers talked about yesterday, which was the person that gets the business will be the most helpful and the most persistent.
Mm-hmm. And to piggyback off of that, two things that I've learned. One from yesterday from Gene Rivers, although you learn it quicker, but sometimes people put it in words and it just hits you differently. So personally, I've learned, and I think everyone on this call will have learned or has learned, in this industry, people will waste your time. They will absolutely just waste your time. They think you don't have a job. I don't know what they think.
Yeah.
You can get very frustrated or you can get productive, right? So Gene Rivers said yesterday, and I'm guilty of this. I will attest to it right now. He said, you make calls to FSBOs and expireds and it doesn't work out for you and you drop it. Yeah, I did because it was annoying. Does that mean that it's wrong? Like that what I did was right? No, there are tons of people out here making business off of expireds and FSBOs. I didn't give it enough time and I can admit that. So, you've got to give people time. Yes, they talk to you. You could have the most encouraging conversation. Corey and I, again, I'll use her an example. We did a open house together, and the guy, we were chatting with him and like whatever. And he was like, yeah. So he said, well, there's another property. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to call you tomorrow and we'll set up a day to go and see that property. He's ghosted me. I've called him like 5 times since that open house. I've sent him a few emails, nothing crazy, just like, hey, checking in, see if timing is right for you. Are you available? Do you want to have a call? Like, I'm big on no pressure, but I'm also pressuring them, right? And that's another thing. It goes back to bold. And I'm sure you're learning this too. I remember my first bold, I was 4 months in the business. I didn't even have one closing. I had no sphere. And Pat Mancuso was our bold coach. And he said, you have to create a sense of urgency. And I was like, this guy's crazy. I don't know what the hell to say. I'm not creating a sense of, he's nuts. Like as if he didn't already have this whole career behind him that he was now a MAPS coach and leading a bold session, right? I'm like, there's no way. But eventually you do get very comfortable. The more you're in the business, the more transactions you're doing, the more people you're talking to. I can pull things out of my brain now that I amaze myself at.
Yeah.
It starts to really flow naturally. Practice on your friends. Practice. I know we're all adults here. If you don't have a partner, a script partner, get one. That's really important. So you will, when you say it enough, it just becomes so second nature that you don't feel out of place.
Right. We had a couple questions about what does a typical day look like for you?
Probably not the best person to answer that. No, I'm kidding.
Well, here, can I interject real fast? I think the point here is that like the successful people, they're successful from a number of different ways. Like you don't have to say to yourself, well, don't tell Bill, but I didn't make calls from 9 to 11, but I'm still making my goals. Like, I really don't care. I just want you to win. And so if you're winning, whatever winning means to you, then I don't care how it happens. Right. So don't think that like, if you can't like be perfect in alignment with the way that Bold says you should do your business, then you're a failure of some sort. We clearly know that you're not a failure.
100%. So a daily day in my life looks like I average, my wake up time is somewhere between 5:30 and 7:30. If I've slept really good in the nighttime, I'm up at 5:30 like nobody's business. And when I do get up like that, I will set my timer to read for 15 minutes. So that's off the bat. I start reading. I do a really quick look at my phone to make sure that like none of my kids have texted me in the middle of the night because I leave my phone on silence, and just see if, something happened that they need, whether they're in my house, because my kids will text me from another room, or my daughter who lives, somewhere else. And then I don't open my phone. Then I read. I set a timer to read for about 15 minutes. If I have ample time, I'll do 30 minutes. Then from there, I have a list. So I saved myself in my phone so that I could go through YouTube and find motivational videos, and I send them to myself constantly. So I have this running list of like just 10-minute motivational video, like whatever it is. Also, I make coffee because I'm not, I can't function. So I've had my coffee, I'm drinking coffee, I'm reading my book, I get done with reading, I do 20-minute, 10 or 20-minute motivational thing. I try to keep it really short. Sometimes there's a great one. The thing is, guys, is that I was thinking about this also, about talking to you about this. Everything you put in your brain, you really need to vet what you put in there. Because like my mom came to visit and she said, oh, you got to watch this movie. You're going to love this movie. And the first thing I said to her is, Mom, is this movie about dying children? Because I just can't. She said, no, it's not. She lied. There was a child who died. Now you don't see anything or whatever, but I couldn't, like, I was so mad at her for saying that it wasn't and falsifying it, because I know how that's going to affect me. So if you start your day really early and you're reading something positive and you're listening to something positive, guess what? You're going to be positive. So, I do my own thing until about, and then I journal. So I do gratitude. I don't do like a deep journal. I just do gratitude from the day before. And what I do with my gratitude is I don't just say, I'm super thankful that Donna told Bill that I should be a success story on PC. No, I go into like detail. So I'm super thankful that my job brought me to locations so good as Roswell, and that we were able to have a Thanksgiving lunch today in the middle of a pandemic, where I was able to sit down with Donna and talk to her and share some, insight and secrets and whatever. And that she believed in me enough that when Bill came over, she said, hey, Heather would be great for this spot. So that is a true gratitude, Donna. So I go into the detail because when you go back, well, when you reminisce about it and you relive it, you feel good, right? And then when you go back, and I do go back and look at my my gratitudes, I can remember that moment like really, really vividly. So then from there, I pretty much get my kids up at 7:30. It's a struggle to get them out of bed, so I deal with that for a while, whatever. I bring one to school. He's in high school, so we're out the door at like 8. I bring my other one to school. We leave by 8:30. I bring him to school. Now I'm home, and then I sit in my office and I pull out my planner, and I at this point, while my kids are getting ready for school, I've already checked texts. I briefly looked at my email to see if anything's crazy. I pull out my planner and I sit there and I say, okay, today, for example, I had an 11 o'clock with Aubrey, 12 o'clock with you guys. I got a financing contingency that's due today. And in my super hopeful self, I wanted to get my nails done, but now I'm taking out buyers, so I can't do that. So I do that, and I sit down and I look at like what these things need of me. So for example, my financing contingency, I'm gonna, immediately send an email, and then I'm gonna follow up with a text. Hey, just send you an email to that agent, just so you can look at that. So I delegate those things. I do revisit my email and see who I haven't reached out to in a little while. And then I reach out to those people via email. I'm not a big pick up the phone and call person. I will do the phone if absolutely necessary, but I'm pretty awkward on the phone. So I prefer to do like a quick text or a quick email, like, hey, let's, revisit this or whatever. And I get that done. I try to go top heavy, which means that I top load my morning. Because I set my appointments for the afternoon. So whatever appointments I have, they're from like 12 to 4. I really want to be home when my kids get home because I got a whole bunch of sons and they're super mischievous. So I just want to make sure everything's okay. So I try to get my appointments between 12 and 4. 4:30, they start getting home. So 4:30 is the latest. Occasionally, like today, I've been out of the house since 10 o'clock. I'm probably not going to be home until like 7. So, that does happen, but that's pretty much how it is. I top load my morning with all emails and calls and everything that I have to do. And then in the afternoon is where I have my meetings.
Well, what I hear from that is that you're intentional about every minute of your day.
I have to be.
Why do you have to be?
Because it goes back to the organization, right?
Sorry, I can't help but coach a little bit.
No, that's fine. It's in your genes now. Because it goes back to the organization. If my calendar is hectic and my days are hectic, I'm not feeling good about anything. And I don't want to do anything in this world that I don't feel good about. And so if I can master my schedule, and that doesn't mean that, I woke up this morning, checked my text around 7:30, had a text from a client at 4:42 a.m. We're seeing 4 houses this afternoon. And they're like, hey, can we throw this one into the mix? Well, sure. So I add them to a 6:30 slot this evening, right? Because I'll be with them from 2:30 to at the time 6 o'clock. And he says to me, oh, no, that's too late. I can't see the house in the dark. Okay. Well, guess what? We're going to have to eliminate one of the houses you wanted to see. So which is your least favorite? Right? That's another thing that I think comes with confidence and comes with time and comes with mastery, is that you're no longer afraid to say, because we want to be the give all do all for our clients, and it's just not possible sometimes. And you have to.
The nugget, guys, listen up. This is the nugget.
The boundary, that's the nugget. The boundary is you have to control your calendar and you have to control your clients. I think that Bill, and I know that Andy Peters has said it in training before, he who controls the conversation, you see Bill's asking me conversations. When he's done listening to me, he gives me a new question, right? Like when he's like, we spent too much time there. This is what he does, and that's perfect. So you have to control, right? Am I right?
Yeah.
The situation. And so if your client just throws you, because again, nobody respects your time. So you have to make the boundaries. Joe has a work in office Christmas party today. Our boys will be home until later. I'm like, hey, are you going to order dinner from them? Because I'm going to be with clients and I really don't like to be on the phone while I'm with clients. Can you juggle that? But that doesn't mean that I don't want to get home after 8 o'clock. Right. So I had to say to them, which is the house that you least like, that you don't want to see as much as another one? Oh, Sandy Springs. Okay, perfect. Let's cancel that house.
Yeah. I think that's exactly right. Okay, so questions are starting to come in. How do you Can you just quickly go through your script for when you're inviting a neighbor to an open house?
Yeah, sure. I will knock on the door. And again, I think we should all read the scripts, and I think we should memorize the scripts. And then I think going forward, you paraphrase the scripts. One of the things that I'm sure you guys are going to encounter, and I certainly did, was this sounds robotic. I don't want to sound like this, but it is robotic because it's foreign. So you're speaking on things that you don't even really truly understand yet, right? You're being told to say this, so you do. So read the scripts, get super familiar, and then get really comfortable and make it your own. So I'm like, knock, knock. They open the door and I'm like, hey, hi, my name is Heather. I have my little badge on. So I'm like, this is, I work for Keller Williams, and I wasn't sure if you saw the house down the street. We are going to have an open house on Sunday from 2 to 4. I would love it if you could come by. The address is, 123 Main Street. Feel free to bring any friends. If you know anybody who wants to live in this great community, now's the time. They'll ask you some questions. What's the house? What's the price? Has it been updated? And I'll tell them, oh, it's $425. It's got some updates. I really think you should come over and see it. In fact, I'll be there at 1:30. If you want to come over a little bit earlier, and it usually takes me about a half hour to clean up. So I'll be there until 4:30 too, in case you don't want to see everyone. Easy breezy.
Love it.
Super duper simple. You don't, we hear this so much. You get so caught up in like the startup that you never start. We overcomplicate things. Just simplify it, and that's it.
That's me. I'm guilty of that.
Yeah, simplify it. Imagine you're just talking to like one of your kids, and you're like, you know what? Don't throw your stuff on the floor. I don't like it. So it's just as easy as that. Like, hey, I remember, and I don't know who told me this, I've never known how to run a business. I've never had my own business. I've never been the master of my own schedule before. All these things I've learned through KW training. So another thing that someone said in KW training was, where was I going with that? I'm gonna have to revisit that because I just lost the train of thought. But it's basically about, we care, we think, and this is true for all of us, we think that the people we're talking to care about us as much as we care about us. They do not. You knock on that door, you invite somebody to an open house, chances are you might not even be a thought after it. Yeah. However, I've knocked on a door, invited someone to an open house. She owned the house next door to the house I held. And 6 months later, I sold her house. That was a property, investment property. So knock on the doors.
Yeah, and if I was on that door, on the other side of that knock that you just did, I would say, wait, you spend 30 minutes cleaning up the client's house before the open house starts? My last agent never did that.
100%.
Right? So you just never know like what word they may hang on to, and that could cause the instant relationship right there. I want to be super respectful of your time, but it looks like there's 2 more questions. Do you have another moment?
Yeah.
Okay. How are you working your database to build your referrals? Walk us through how you communicate with your database. What are you saying? How are you keeping track of all of it?
When I meet people, when I sign people, whether I'm a listing agent, we all have a disc. If you don't have a disc, figure out how to get one.
Yeah, we took it. We did a class on that a few weeks ago.
Okay, perfect. So all of these things that we do, so again, it's the systems. Keller Williams has systems, and they all like come full circle, and they all work out. Like one day you're like, oh, that was a purpose. There was a purpose for that. So my disc, I'm a high I and a low I. I grew up in New York, and I worked with lawyers all the time, and they were some dry people. I can work with dry people, but they're not my preference. So with that, when I sign people, I will just say to them, hey, look, we're going to become best friends. Pretty soon, I'm going to know like what you ate for dinner, what your kids are doing. Like, I'm going to know more about you than you can even imagine. And you're going to know a lot about me too. And that's fine, because I'm an open book. So I keep that open communication when I'm working with them. So here's a prime example. On Thanksgiving, I personally text people in my sphere that I helped buy or sell this year. And I reached out to a client who they're a little like not super chatty. So like when I reach out to them and I'm like, hey, how's everything going? You guys love the house? And they're like, yeah, great. So happy. Okay. They don't really want to give me too much info, right? What did I do to her?
Done talking.
on Thanksgiving, I sent her and her husband a group text. And I said, hey, Hannah, it's me, Heather. I hope you and Randy are doing great. And I really hope Roman and Willa are like adapting well to their new schools. And you know what she said to me? Oh my God, I can't believe you remember all of our names. It's like that.
That's good.
It's just that simple.
Right.
So I work that referral base. Just because I close, they are not garners to me. I still will sporadically text them. I'm not necessarily asking them for business, and any referral business I've ever gotten has been offered versus asking. I probably would get more if I asked over the course of time. Like Carrie Veal, she's like a master at this. She gets listings all the time. And I'm like, where do you get your listings from? And she's like, oh, I call my referral. And I'm like, who do you know that I need to talk to? This year, after Jean Rivers's class yesterday, you better believe I am calling people and saying, who do I need to talk to? I'm going to have such different conversations this year.
Well, I think we've been talking about this a lot in here, which is when you know you're good at what you do, and you know that you spend more time studying the market than the average agent, and you know you are more learning based than the average agent, and you know your work ethic is stronger than the average agent, you feel compelled to make the calls because you do not want somebody in your community to get taken advantage of by some agent that's not looking out for their best interest. And you also don't want them to fall prey to an agent that doesn't take their work seriously and causes them not to have the greatest experience possible.
On that, I am going to tell you that when you guys do business and you have a couple of deals under your belt, you are going to start working with other agents and you are going to be dumbfounded at the type of service they provide their people with. It doesn't happen a lot amongst us Keller Williams people because we really are trained and we are trained so well. When it does happen with a Keller Williams agent, I am like mad. I'm furious because I'm like, I know you get the same training I get, right? Yeah. But it often happens with these virtual properties, Solid Source, these people who, and I understand that not everybody has the money to pay the dues that Keller Williams requests, but I can tell you that you are getting so much for that money. So you shouldn't look at it like, oh God, I have to pay $110 a month. No, you have to look at what you're getting for $110 a month. So when people go to Solid Source or something and they're paying, $30 for, this virtual experience, they're not getting this training. Those clients, I did a deal with Duffy Realty. I'm sure we all heard about her. She's a discount broker. She doesn't lead her people in any which direction. She literally lists their home, I think, for like 1%. My buyers, I was able to get $12,000 off list price for my buyers because I represented them, because I went to the inspection. I learned all the things that were wrong. And then I represented them. Those people, they got what they paid for, the sellers. They paid for a discount broker and they got discounts. So what happened was after that, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, we were at the closing table. They said I did such a wonderful job despite getting them to lower their list price by $12,000. And I helped them buy a house.
Yeah. Didn't Jean, I was on and off of Jean's call yesterday. Didn't Jean say something like, you never go to a restaurant and when the server comes over to the table, you're like, no, I don't need to see a menu. Just give me the cheapest thing on the menu.
Yeah, you don't do that. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. I don't care what it tastes like. I just want the cheapest thing.
Jean said yesterday that often it is not about money. If you ask a seller what is most important to them, it's not about money.
Right.
And that I'm dealing with I told you I got a stale listing. It's going to expire the end of this month. I almost want her to fire me if I'm being completely honest. Okay. Because every idea that I get that I have talked over with Aubrey, with Robin, like I'm begging for ideas. Every single thing I have given this woman that we could do to get her home sold. No, I don't really believe that. No, I don't really believe that. No, I don't think that's going to work. So when Jean said yesterday, it's not always about money. We are way overpriced. I know it. I'm getting emails from other agents in the neighborhood who want to price their home. I'm like, don't do it. Don't price it based off of us. We're sitting here stale. I'll be the first one to tell you.
I remember getting a lot, as we get better and better and more experience, we get more confident, right? I've gone to sellers with 2 sheets of paper. I said, here we got 2 sheets of paper here. We're signing something today.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
This sheet is a price reduction. And this sheet is a termination.
Mm-hmm.
Which do you want to sign?
Mm-hmm.
I'm done playing around.
You have to be able, and you have to be willing to cut your losses. And I know that when you're first starting, that's really, really scary. I get it, because whatever money is coming in is money that you definitely want to bank on. But like Bill said, when you get more experience, when you get more confident, you are in a position. I have fired one client in 2 years. I don't work with the A type, right? So back to my disc, I'm like super influential. I will only like talk to people. I will meet people, and I can, if I feel that I can be myself with them. So this goes to my referrals. I keep in touch with them all the time, and I can be myself with them. And I think that being genuine is so important. But part of that genuinity, if that's even a word, I don't know. But part of that is also having confidence in yourself. And I know it's really hard when you're not doing the business, when you're not actually having transactions. I'm going to tell you something that is so pivotal to my success personally and professionally. I always want to be in the room with people who are 10 steps ahead of me. I don't want to sit amongst peers that are doing the same thing I'm doing. I just don't. And I'm sorry if that sounds assy, and it doesn't mean that I don't want to help anybody who was once in my shoes, but you want to be with people who are where you want to get. And then when you get there, you sit at a different table.
That's right.
If you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
That's
right.
100%. All right, one last question. Are you targeting a certain price point to make sure that you reach your financial goals? How strategic are you with your approach to different price ranges, or different, like an ideal client, so to speak?
First of all, Donnie, you have really good questions. Second of all, I want to tell you that the cheaper the home, the quicker it's going to sell, right? There's a certain price point that's just flying off the market, but that doesn't make it easy, because those homes are getting multiple offers. Everything is flying, top speed at you. I mean, it's just a mess. So I initially, when I started last year, I think last year, my lowest house I sold was 175, and the highest price point I had was 311. This year, my highest price point was 665, which, I'll be honest with you, I have limited beliefs too. We all do. And I was like, you know what? I don't want to work with people who are going to pay, $700,000 or $800,000 for a house. They're probably so arrogant. These clients were the most amazing people. We're actually friends now. I've gone to her house. She's come to my house. I absolutely love her. So do not limit your beliefs in any which way. The business is the business. The transactions are the transactions. The work is the same. It doesn't matter if your house is $200,000 or $1 million. The work is the same.
In some respects, it's actually easier to sell higher priced homes.
They are way more.
I don't mean this in any, I'm not trying to say anything I shouldn't say here, but if you're working with a first-time home buyer, no matter how much explaining you do and how much, expectation setting you give, they still need everything explained 17 times. Mm-hmm. You still have to be like twice as patient or 10 times as patient with them, mm-hmm. right? You're helping a $400,000 or $500,000 or $600,000 buyer or seller. Like, they're busy. They usually make enough money where they're in some form. I'm making a lot of generalizations here. Please excuse me, but they usually have some form of like advisory role in their job. Like they're a manager or they're a supervisor of some sort, and they're used to assigning a task away and then not worrying about it anymore. And so they generally do the same thing with the real estate sale. Like, I'm going to put Heather through the ringer a little bit on the front end to make sure she's good. But once I know she's good, I'm going to leave her alone, let her do her work. And you just show me where to sign. Right. And I'm not saying you don't give them the same level of service or professionalism. It's just not as much of there's not as much of a neediness.
Micromanaging too.
They
micromanage you. And I'll tell you this, like, to piggyback off of what you just said about like the generalization, it's kind of factual, because when you look at it, who's buying a $200,000 home, right? It's probably a first-time home buyer, which she mentions an FHA, or it's an investor. So the investor, they don't care. They're like, just get me the house, do whatever you got to do with it. But the first-time home buyer, they're starting between like 200, 250. They don't have a lot of, they're very novice to this. They don't have a lot of understanding. So you have to be patient because you're going to have to explain multiple times. By the time that person purchases this house and 10 years goes by and they build the equity and they've gotten more raises in their job, now that they're at a different level, and they're going to sell this home and get their next level home, which is 450, 500, 525. So it's not necessarily being a generalization, but really more about like they are maturing over time. Their lives are maturing over time, and you are here to take them to every level. So that's really what it is. It doesn't have to be like negative or a condescending comment. It really just is they're maturing through their life, and you're there with, through every step.
It's meeting them where they are, right? If they're in a position where they've got a lot of stuff going on in their world, your job is to be the calming force in the transaction. When they're in a place where they're distracted and this is just like one more thing on the list and they're willing to be a little bit more hands-off, then you can treat it that way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so to answer that question, to really answer it, I wouldn't say that there's a price point. I've even done rentals this summer. What do I make? $250 on a rental, $300? I mean, it's not, but remember this, guys, don't turn your nose to them because those renters are going to be buyers. And so that's something that I've learned is like, I'm not going to shun people away because they don't have enough money to purchase today when they're going to have enough money to purchase in 2 years or something.
Yeah, you're going to need a closing in 2 years, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, you anticipate being in the business in 2 years, right?
100%.
So I always looked at them like, I don't give a damn what I'm paid. I'm in this for the long haul. I'm not waiting another table. So I'm going to help everyone that needs help.
Yes. I actually think your conversation with me about that, because I never did the agent on duty when I was in North Atlanta, but I do it here.
Right.
And we had a conversation when we were in coaching, and you said, look, I waited tables. I would do anything. It didn't matter. I would do anything because that renter was going to turn into a buyer as long as I kept in touch with them.
That's right.
And it's the truth. So, don't think you're too good for any kind of work here. You're not.
Especially nowadays. Nowadays you have, I mean, like a 2-bedroom, 2-bath is like $1,600,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, like everything is starting to get really expensive.
And when you take renters out and you're looking at the $1,600 unit or house or whatever it is, and you're talking to them and you're like, you know what? You can have this conversation with them about like talking to a lender and what are their finances like right now? Do they need a financial advisor? You're becoming so valuable to them because they don't want to live in an apartment forever. They just don't want to. So you're giving them all these nuggets of value, and then they are forever indebted for you. I get texts probably twice a week from a woman whose home I sold last December when she told me, it's not going to sell. I've had it listed with an agent for 6 months and we had one open house. It's just not going to sell. My home is not going to sell. The price point was $210,000. We listed it. This is before the market went super duper crazy. So we didn't get anything above asking, but we got asking. I had one open house. I had an agent hold one open house for me. We got asking price. We were binding the same night as the open house.
Amazing.
Okay. 30 days later, we closed on like January 4th or something of this year. She's an older woman. She took that money. She moved into like a senior, like one of these. I actually went to her new apartment in this. It's not assisted living. It's not like it's like retroactive, I guess, off of what your salary is or whatever. I went and I picked her up. She's in not Brookhaven, Decatur. I picked her up. We went out for Thai food. I went into her new little cute apartment. This is back in the spring, right before COVID. And she still texts me like 2 times a week to tell me how much I've changed her life.
Yeah. It's amazing. Our job, I've always said that this is my role. My role is to help my people build wealth.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Can I ask a question when you're finished? I'm sorry.
Yeah. So with that said, my job is to, oftentimes I'm like the first professional that they've actually interacted with. Right. John and I were talking about this yesterday. Like, we are really well paid concierge. Right? Like, you want a financial advisor, you need a CPA, you need a life insurance person, you need a tax guy, you need a plumber. I can help you with all of that stuff. And so as we're out generating business, don't forget that the vendors can also be a great resource for you. Ebony, go ahead.
I just want to say one thing, Ebony. I'm sorry. On top of that, piggybacking again on your vendors, you need to figure out the level of service you want to give to people And then you need to work with those same kind of people who are going to give the same level of a service.
Beautiful. Class dismissed.
Do not give business out to anyone who will not treat your clients as if it was coming right out of your mouth. That's it.
That is so critical.
Yeah.
How do you guys know who those vendors are, though, if you haven't worked with them yourself?
You call around. You say, hey, Heather, you have my number. You have my Facebook. You say, hey, Heather, who do you have? Who, you know, my question is, who is your tried and true? I only want to work with people you've worked with before.
Would you send this person into your mother's house?
100%.
Yeah. All right, your turn, Ebony.
So Heather, when you were looking at, and forgive me for going so far back, but when you said that you were choosing like your area, like when you were doing your open houses and you, let's just say it was from Johns Creek to Sandy Springs, as a newer agent, I feel that I don't have a specific area that I want to market to because I'm trying so hard to, I want the numbers, you know, under my belt. So I feel like I'm all over the place, which then puts me in a place of not being an expertise of any one place. So how do you just stay true to yourself with picking that one area so that you can be that best person to your clients when you're coming into, you know, real estate as a new agent?
Okay. So when I was a new agent, I took whatever I could get wherever I could get to. Okay. What happens though, is as you become a busier agent, you have to think about what it would be like. So I live in Roswell. What would it be like for me to go over to Woodstock? Okay, perfect example. A friend of mine bought a house. He was in Lawrenceville. He only wanted to use me. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to help you because you are my friend. I worked with him at my first job when I came here. Do you know it was in Snellville?
Do you know how bad traffic is Roswell to Snellville?
How about 3 times a week? Because his price point was $247. 250, but I said to him, we got to start coming in really low because we're getting outbid on everything right now. So we need wiggle room. So 3 times a week, I'm going out there. Find your pain. Where do you not want to go? And then don't do it. Stay with your point of pleasure.
I would say, look, you have an opportunity to be intentional with every move you make. So if your intentionality is around pursuing everything, you'll be mediocre at that. So you can get just as there's this presupposition that you are more effective the more you're spread out. That's actually not true. Right. So if you were to say, hey, I want to work North Fulton and Sandy Springs and Woodstock, and you focused all your energy on previewing properties in those areas and hosting open houses in those areas and learning about the market trends in those areas and meeting business owners in those areas, you will find you won't get a whole lot of inquiries for Stone Mountain because you're not intentional about getting business in Stone Mountain. And then the one-off that you might get each year of somebody who knows a friend who wants to buy in Tucker or something, you can determine at that point if that's something you want to take on. But your intention is to penetrate the markets that make the most sense for you, right?
And to jump off of that too is, so you could pick your point, right? So Sandy Springs to Johns Creek, and I could sell someone's home in Sandy Springs. Well, guess what? Now my buyer wants to buy in Dawsonville, right? So you will travel outside of your area every so often, or you can refer that out and get 25%. When you do a referral, you get a 25% payout from who you referred to. Now, I understand that when you're beginning, that's probably not conducive. You want all the money you can get. So then what I would do is, who works in Dawsonville in this office? Brooke Woolley does. Talk to her. Ask her what this market is. That girl is like chatty. She will talk to anybody. She is so willing to help, and she's good at what she does.
She's really good at what she does.
So find a person who specializes in that area if you don't want to give up that deal, because you can't, because you need that money right now.
Right.
See what I'm saying? But you, Ebony, where do you live?
I live in Johns Creek, and I would love to be here. But being that I don't have those transactions under my belt, when you're talking to some of these people, because I do cold calling, they can size you up really, really quickly and just kind of like X you out. Whereas even though you may be the best fit and they won't find anybody better, you're not even getting a chance because they're like, you don't have those accolades. So I'm trying to find, I don't know where I fit. And I know that this business, I fit in this business, but I need to know where I fit and where I going to excel at, you know, and I feel like I'm all over the place, and I don't want to keep being all over the place because I'm wasting time.
Well,
want to take that one?
You may be wasting time, but you're not, because you're getting experience. And with every phone call that you have, I want you to learn something from it. Hang up that call and ask yourself what you learned from that call. What accolade do you not have that they believe that you do have? And then, you know, MLS is a really great system. We can find out so much in our market based off of MLS, but also have the conversations. I'm really big on like mentoring and being mentored. And I again, it goes back to me saying, I don't want to sit with somebody who's doing the same thing I'm doing. I will, please don't get me wrong. And I love to help people, but I want to know, like, other people, like, where are you getting your business from? And what happens if it's all the way out in Woodstock or Canton and you don't want to go there? Like, or who's the market specialist in Canton? Who can I have this conversation with? Because early on, and I'm sure Bill has said this to you a million times, and Aubrey says it, and Andy Peters says it, you are not an individual agent right now. You are in an office of, you know, we're growing so much, I don't even know how many people.
We're knocking on 300 right now.
Knocking on 300. We're part of the GLG, which gives us access to over 1,000 people. If you're part of the GLG, jump on there and say, hey, I've got a question. Who knows? Your questions are not stupid. They're just not. And anybody who makes you feel stupid or small, then that's their problem, and that's a really rude person.
Yes.
If I may, Ebony, can you just tell us more about that? Like what, like, is it the market knowledge that you are worried about?
Well,
great question.
How are they putting you in a situation you don't want to be in?
Well, no, I think it may have more to do with me and maybe my tone when I'm on the call. You know, and it's just like, before I can even get to the meat of the conversation, it's kind of like, this is not what we're into. Okay, bye. And that's most of every time, that's what I'm getting. And I'm trying to get over that, and I'll keep going and going, like, okay, well, the next call, oh, the next one, the next one, the next one. Sometimes you'll get, you know, someone sweet on the phone, but whatever. I just don't feel that in the area that I'm trying to, I don't feel confident enough in that Johns Creek, Alpharetta area, because these people, they bought 3, 4, 5 homes. I haven't purchased my first one. You know, one thing about me, I'm very open about who it is that I am. Like, I haven't purchased my home, so I don't know what that looks like. So I don't feel like when I'm on the phone, it's not coming across right. I don't know. It's just like it's a disconnect, and I feel it.
Well, find your people. So I come from New York, right? I like, my first job was in the East Village. I love art. I love museums. I love artistic people. I'm a super creative person. I love, and I mean love, working in like Southeast Atlanta. I love it. I'll take open houses down there too. ITP all day long. Because I can talk to those people. Those are my people, right? I didn't own my first house until I moved here when I was 38 years old. I've been divorced. I've been a single mother. I have been, you know, I was born to a very poor family on welfare. Like, I'm not cut from the same cloth as these people from Johns Creek either. But you find your people, right? And you start working with those people, and the more business you get under your belt, the more confidence you get, the more that, you know, I had that limited belief about working with people who, you know, want to buy houses over 500,000. And now Jamie and Brian Condi are great friends of mine. You don't have to be, you can literally be yourself, or you could be whoever you want to be, right? You just have to know the facts. You just have to know A to B.
Right. So, that's really well said, Heather. And the thing is like we talked about this morning, people are going to work with the people that are the most persistent and the most helpful.
And genuine.
And what Jean did not say was that people will work with the people that have the most years of experience, or have the most number of transactions that they've closed, or have the most designations after their name. That wasn't on the list. It was the people that were genuine and caring, and they came from contribution, and they didn't have commission breath, and they just did what they're supposed to do. They came to work every day, and they became smarter every day, and they became more and more helpful every day.
I wouldn't get discouraged, because it's just like the pool is like anything else, right? You know, whether you're dating or house hunting for yourself, or picking a school system for your own children, or, you know, whatever it is, you're in this pool and you just have to figure out like, where do you want to go? And so, yeah, it'd be great to work in Johns Creek because you live there, right? And so you're like, this is a really good price point here. I live here. I want to be amongst these people. But if they don't fit with you, change the people. You don't have to work with them.
Yeah, I think you probably had a couple of days of bad list or something. It's just a matter of, you just got to keep at it.
Oh,
keep at it.
Isn't it like you'll call like 200 people and get like, I don't know what the ratio is, but it's like you call an obnoxious amount of people and you get like one appointment. So.
Oh yeah.
Don't give up.
Move on.
Don't give up. Do not give up. This has been awesome, Heather. First of all, I want to thank you for coming, and then thank you a second time for staying for an extra 30 minutes. I know many of us are going to the 36-12-3 class. Yeah. This has been fantastic. I always, I consider you a friend, and I consider you kind of a, how do I want to say it? Kind of like a graduate, if you will, of the PC program. Not that you're always welcome back, by the way, for in any fashion you want. And you've been super informative to our group today, and I'm sure that many people are taking lots of notes, and it's just great to hear similar messages from a variety of people that are successful and that set realistic goals, although they felt like they were a bit of a stretch. And then you came in the door, and like I said very often, I said, look, where are the people making money, having fun around here? Yeah. Right? And you went and did the things that those people do, and what do you know? You have the results too. And there have been many, I'm sure, crappy days in your year, and you're yeah, exactly. And when you commit to something, there's no looking back. And I saw that in you a year ago, and you've continued to prove me to prove that to be right. And I'm just very grateful to be in business with you. If anyone has some follow-up questions for you, I'll pass them along. Do you want to share any final words?
I'm gonna put my email in chat. I want to tell Alma, I totally get where you're coming from. Donna, I adore you. Thank you so much for everyone who has me here. If you have any questions or you want to talk to me, I'll put my number here too, 485-7745. I want to thank you all for having me here, Bill. Thank you so much. And Bill is a great leader. If you can do the things that he tells you to do, you are absolutely going to have success. You need the drive and you need the direction. And I believe that I already know you guys have the direction. So you have to find the drive inside. You know, there's going to be plenty of days that are going to knock you down. My cousin just joined a Keller Williams in New Jersey. She calls me like 3 times a week. I hate this. I want to quit. I'm like, no, you don't. Who are you lying to? You don't want to quit. You want to be successful. So remember that. You don't want to quit. You're just frustrated. It's a bad minute, not a bad day, right?
Right.
We have a way of like masticizing everything. Like, oh, it's awful, right? But the good is so fleeting. Focus on that more.
Yeah. I heard something cool this morning that says, if you're mad at something, you're frustrated at something, if you're not going to care about that in 5 years, you get 5 minutes, then you have to move on.
100%. 100%. I believe in all of you. I think you can all do great things, and you just have to believe in yourself. And sometimes that's the hardest thing to do.
Heather, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Heather.
Thanks, Heather. Wonderful.
Really
Hope you have a wonderful weekend. Happy holidays to you.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Thank you to everyone. Thank you so much.
All right. This was our success series and our launch mastermind in one. Hopefully you got lots of great content. And you now have my permission to take off and go to 36-12-3. As always, if you need anything, let me know.
Actually,